So I started a new job about 4 months ago now, and I am really enjoying it. And I did a lot of the work. I have burnt out in the past, so I am being much more mindful about my energy and I am being a lot more intentional when I start a new job. And so when I started this job, even when I was going through the recruitment process and looking for a job, I became really mindful of managing my energy, my mindset, and so I came in through this job feeling really good. And it's been a really positive experience so far. I am very lucky that I have found a company where the culture matches my values, the setup matches my needs. I appreciate my colleagues. I have a really great manager. So this really helps. But I remember the first couple of months I was there before I went on vacation. I actually asked my manager, like I had only had positive feedback, but I actually asked him directly, like, are you happy with my work? And he was like, absolutely. Like, if I haven't said it enough, like, I am. Please go and enjoy your vacation. And this reminded me that when you've grown up being hyper vigilant and learning to read other people's emotions, and even sometimes reading wrong, but just when you've lived with people who didn't necessarily communicate intentionally and actively, who weren't in tune with your emotions, you've learned to read the room, let's say, and you've learned to be hyper vigilant and kind of always expect the worst. And this has been my experience. Even though I've become much more optimistic over the past few years, I've learned to lean into the more optimist side of things. I've tried to rewire my brain to focus on the positive a lot more. It still creeps in, it still creeps in that sometimes, even though I have much more confidence in myself and I am less defined by what others think, I think sometimes it still creeps upon me where I need to hear actually people say, like, you are doing a good job and I am happy with you and I'm happy that you are here. Especially when going through a trial period, right? Like, I feel like the hardest is getting the job, but there's still a little bit of anxiety when you're in the trial period, even if you're doing a great job. And so this has really reminded me that as adults, and even more like if you are hyper vigilant, if you're always trying to read everything what people are saying, communication is so key. Like, communication is absolutely key. Like, I see it in myself with my partner at work. I see it in other people between, like, mother daughters. I just see these situations that keep happening because people don't say what they're thinking. And yeah, like, let's just say I think we're all adults. Like, I love this saying, we're all adults and we should communicate. So recently I had someone close to me who went through a difficult diagnosis, and I remember the person closest to them was telling me, I don't know if I should do this, I don't know if I should do that. And I'm like, you should ask that person, right? And I understand, like, the even at work, like with your manager, I really understand that need to fulfill expectations before they're asked, and to feel like you need to fulfill someone's expectations of you and their and needs before asking. But let's be honest, like, I think this is still a hypervigilance response. I think it's still a reactive response, and the best thing is to communicate often, openly. So the way I try to do this a lot is I am the same, because sometimes I expect things, especially let's say when I'm on my periods, I expect my partner to know what to do with me because I'm tired and I don't want to voice it out. But that is unfair. Like, of course he's gonna know some things to do, but he can't know everything that I'm thinking. So I can't really be mad if I'm not communicating, right? At least that's what I'm telling myself. And at work, it is the same thing. Like, I think my motto is really communicate clearly and often. So let's say you're in a meeting and you come into the meeting and you don't really know what's expected of you. I think this is the first thing, right? If someone schedules a meeting with you, they should be forward about what they're expecting, like the outcome of the meeting, so you know what to expect as well. And then the second thing, usually when I'm into meetings, is if I see people having big emotions, like if I feel frustration, anger, I tend to name it. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's some frustration here. Can you tell me more about it? Just to not let things unsaid. Like, obviously, depending on the context, sometimes it's hard to do, but I think the clearer and more transparent you can be, the better. Again, emotions are just messages. So if someone's angry or frustrated on the other side because your team isn't able to meet deadlines, like, they are absolutely entitled to feeling that emotion. And potentially the best that can be done is clearing the air, right? Like saying, like calling it out or putting it out there and then talking through it. And then I think the second thing as well is just making sure that you repeat a lot and realign a lot. So I know that at the end of meeting, but even during, like if I ask a question and someone gives me somewhat of a lengthy answer, I will repeat or like reframe their response when they're done answering and say like, this is correct, right? I've understood correctly. So you make sure we're all on the same page. And same at the end of every meeting, I like to say, okay, so this is what we decided. Those are the next steps. Those are potential open questions. Does anyone agree? Is there anything else? Because I think repeating allows just to make sure we're all on the same page. And this is part of communication, right, as well. So it's about being straightforward about your expectations, what you want. It's about, being, repeating, realigning consistently so others and yourself know that you are on the same page. And then the last part, like I was saying with my manager, is about asking questions, right? If you have doubts, ask questions. If you want to make sure you understood properly, ask questions, right? And so for me, it was about asking like, are you happy with my work? And being straightforward with that question and not letting it linger. And sometimes communication is really hard. Like sometimes I've found that working with more junior people, more junior product managers who I have to mentor, or now that I am managing someone, sometimes like communication isn't the easiest because you have to like also communicate what needs to improve, what maybe might not work as well. And I'm the kind of person who will say all of this with a smile. It's cultural, it's who I am, but that doesn't mean that my point shouldn't get across. So I think learning to be very clear in your communication, you can be nice and you can still be straightforward and transparent, is important. Because communicating is also saying the things sometimes that no one wants to hear, but it's still better that it is said than unsaid. When things are unsaid, the person in front of you can't know what to expect. And I think that's unfair to them, right? You can't have expectations, not voice them out, and then be pissed about it. I mean, you can. I am sometimes. But it's not fair, right? It's not fair. And similarly, one thing that I've really learned, and this is personal, but that has helped in my work life, is I've learned to ask when I need something. Oh, and this is so helpful. And just being able to ask, like, let's say when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, my mom was abroad on vacation and she asked me if I wanted her to come home. And I remember having that conversation with my partner and being like, yes, I want her to come home. And my partner was like, then right now you have a diagnosis, like you are gonna have to learn to become aware of your needs and name them. And so this is what I did. And she actually couldn't come back ultimately. And so the answer was no. But I didn't resent her for it because I had the courage to ask and to voice it out, and I understood her reason for not doing it. But I realized if I hadn't asked her that, I would have expected her to come home and she hadn't, but we wouldn't have had that conversation, I would have resented her for it. Is that weird? I don't know. But so this is also what I mean when sometimes you have expectations and you don't communicate them. You expect someone to do something for you and they don't do it, you'll be so mad, so sad, so unhappy, so frustrated, in the case of work a lot. But on the other hand, if you ask and the person says no, it just doesn't feel the same because you've had that conversation, you've closed that loop. Like, you can still feel mad if you feel it's this person's role, but it's usually more of a discussion and then you agree on something. And it's so much better to ask and to communicate clearly and directly than to expect and just, yeah, then unfairly hold the person responsible for not doing what you wanted them to do, if that makes sense. So I think communication as adults is like emotions is such an important topic. You feel like it's so basic, but it's not. It's a foundation, but it's a foundation that a lot of us have not been educated in, me included, I think, before I started actually working on this myself. And one part of communicating well as well is giving feedback. And I love there are a lot of frameworks to give feedback, but usually feedback is anchored in a behavior, like a specific behavior or a specific result in a situation. Feedback isn't, "Oh, you're always so annoying when I ask you to help me with this client." Like, that's not feedback, that's like a judgment. And people don't take kindly to judgments. So yeah. And the second part of feedback is, what is the intention behind giving the feedback? I always tell people I work with, and I always try to remind myself that the intention is key. What is your intention for your interactions? What your intention when you're writing back? So if I take the example of someone I've worked with who had received an email who she felt was disrespectful from a younger colleague, and she told me, like, I just want to, like, I have to translate it in English, but basically she said that I just want to, like, yeah, just send it right back to her. And basically, and I was like, okay, what would be the result if you did that, if you like put her back in her place as you say it? And she's like, well, she would probably be mad and our relationship would probably get worse. And I'm like, is that what you want to do? And so she stopped and she started thinking about it, and she was like, no, she's like, actually what I want is for our relationship to feel better and I want to feel respected. And I'm like, okay, so what kind of feedback do you need to give in that case? And in that case, the feedback was much more objective. The feedback was, when you write me emails, you often use this and this and that made me feel disrespected. And I would like you in the future not to do that anymore, or to replace those phrases by this and that. Feedback is about, the objective side, but you're also allowed to say, this is how it's making you feel. I feel like it creates more of a connection. Like, the other person isn't responsible for your feelings, but usually when you say that to someone, they're like, I am so sorry. I absolutely don't want to disrespect you. That was not my intent. I will not do this moving forward, but please know that you are a valuable colleague to me and our professional relationship is important to me. So usually I feel like putting out there how you're feeling as well is helpful. But still, like, the behavior should be situational, contextual. It should be a specific situation, a specific behavior, a specific pattern. It should not be a judgment on the person. Like, you're angry all the time and you're this or that. It should try to be as contextual and situational and behavioral to specific situations or patterns as possible. And then saying, how that makes you feel, and suggesting how you would like things to be different, or opening up the conversation for a discussion, right? Knowing that when you open the conversation for a discussion, it might take a bit longer. So I even say that to myself, like sometimes when I give feedback, I have feedback sessions and I want the conversation to really flow both ways, because I want to hear the other person and I want to build a better working relationship together, and I want them as well to be able to take the feedback and empower themselves with it. But there's also the aspect of sometimes it has to be a bit faster, so I already come up with a suggestion of how I want to move forward, and so that we can let it go, because you can have a lot of feedback, right? So communication, feedback, emotion, all of this makes it so much easier to have better relationship at work. And don't forget that the emotions of others, your emotions at work, contribute to your mental health as well. So if you are always angry with a colleague you're working with, it's really gonna tire you out. It's gonna give you less space as well for other emotion, like less mental space and emotional space for other emotions, for your personal life. Like it's gonna follow you home. So becoming better at managing your emotions, and I have another video on this that maybe I'll link here as well. And becoming better at managing your emotions, becoming better at speaking up and communicating transparently, intentionally, becoming better at giving feedback is all gonna make it easier for you not to burn out. I'm not saying you're not gonna burn out. There are many reasons why someone can burn out, but I'm just saying it's gonna reduce that mental load, that emotional load, and it's gonna make it easier and more enjoyable for you to do your work, to be at work, and to have a relationship with your colleagues, a professional relationship with your colleagues, of course. But yeah, I think all of these are super important to feeling good at work, feeling fulfilled at work, and actually enjoying working. So keep that in mind if you're someone who's burnt out in the past, or if you're someone who's been struggling at work. All of these are fundamental, and there are axes that you can improve and that will compound as well. Like it's gonna improve your work life, but it will also improve your life because you also have relationships, personal relationships with people outside of work. And what I'm talking about here is also valuable for those personal relationships. So if you like this video, please let me know in the comments, and also please ask any questions you have. I will try to answer them right away or in another video. If you love this topic, please subscribe. I am really passionate about everything that has to do with well-being at work and living your best life after going through burnout, depression, and getting a chronic illness diagnosis like multiple sclerosis, and still showing that you can have dreams, you can have big goals, you can have a great career, you can enjoy working, you can enjoy living, all of this. So please subscribe. I post every day, so I will see you tomorrow. And yeah, talk to you soon. Bye.